So the first option we're going to look now is table. Table has actually been around for a while because it's one of the earliest ways of aligning your items in CSS, and it's actually an old school way, but for the sake of the tutorial, this is not something you're used because we have modern ways of aligning your items, but knowing is better than not knowing. So to show you how this table works, the first thing you're going to do is to target your table here and also target your paragraph that is inside your table. And with that, what you're going to do first now is to go to your table and give a display table. Then after that, what you're going to do next is to go to your paragraph and give a display table cell, which is going to be next, and also give a vertical align middle. And the moment you do that, that will automatically center your item in the center. So when I save and I head to my browser, I want you guys to notice it. So now let me go back to VS Code. So let me just put this, my VS Code at the side and my browser at the side also. So now I'm done with my table. What I'm going to show you now is items using Flexbox. And Flexbox is a much more simpler form than absolute than table, because Flexbox is actually the modern way of centering your items. And the first one we're going to do, as you can see, I just have a background color. So, and what you're going to do is to give a display flex. Is to give a display of flex and align items of center. Align items of center. And the next thing you're going to do is to give a justify content of center. That justify content is what is going to carry my item and bring it to the center. Justify content of center. And the moment I save, it's coming to the center. That's how easy it is for Flexbox. Now the next thing is to show you how you can center your items using grid. And as you can see, my grid text here is in the top left corner of my page. And the first thing I'm going to do now is, if I paste this, I have a grid. I named it it's a class name of grid, and I just have a background color of red. So the first thing I'm going to do is similar to Flexbox. So the first thing I'm going to do now is give it a display of grid. It's not going to be flex. This time around, it's going to be grid, a display of grid. And just like Flexbox, align item center, align items of center, and justify content of center also. Center. And when I save, it took it to the middle. And apart from this, I also have a much more simpler form with one line of CSS. It's going to take your text to the center. Instead of saying align item center, justify content center, you can just say place item center, and it has taken it to the middle. Okay, now our next thing is how to center your item using absolute form. And as you can see here, I have a background color just to look good. And what I'm going to do now first is target your paragraph that is inside your absolute. So first of all, put absolute here. You put absolute here, then target your paragraph. Then within this, the first thing you're going to do is to give it a position of absolute. So what you're going to do after giving it the position of absolute, what you're going to do first now is to give it a top of 50%. But if you notice, when I save, it's not showing. That's because it went above my box. It has disappeared now because I just gave it a top of 50%. So what I'm going to do now is to come back to my VS Code here. Within this my absolute, and give it a position of relative so that my paragraph will be relating to the parent element, not the whole body. So let me give this a position of relative. If you don't know much about position, relative, and absolute, I have a video on it. You can go and check it out in my page. And so the moment I save, now my absolute here is back, but is in the left side of my page, which I don't want it to be in my left side. So what I'm going to do now is to give it a left of 50%. The moment I save this, my left of 50%, took it to the middle. That's what I'm talking about. It took it to the middle. The moment you give your parent element a position of relative, your child element is going to be position of absolute, then you give it a top of 50% and left of 50%, and it will take it to the middle. So another thing I want to show you guys, so let me uncomment this my absolute also, since we're done with it. The next thing we're going to use is margin auto, which is actually one of the things I like using because it's actually also straightforward. So the first thing I'm going to do is to give a display flex. You can give a display flex, it's going to work. At the same time, if you give a display grid, it's also going to work. For example, now if I give a display flex, the next thing you're going to do now is target your paragraph. So if you just write auto here, because I named it to be auto, that's why I'm writing auto, and target your paragraph. So the first thing you're going to do is just going to write margin auto, and boom. And one of the reasons grid and Flexbox is much more simpler and easier than the others is because in Flexbox and grid, everything is done within the parent element. But while the others, you actually have to do other things in the child element and another thing in the parent element. So that's actually one of the difference between them. That's why Flexbox and grid is much more easier and simpler and much more, that will just make your life so much more easier.